On the 28th of May, two things happened within hours of each other. Anthropic released their new model, Claude Opus 4.8. That's good enough to do the kind of knowledge work people get paid salaries for. And in the same week, the company behind it, Anthropic, raised $65 billion at an evaluation of $965 billion. That makes it on paper the most valuable startup on the planet. Think about the order of that. They shipped the thing that automates the work and got paid $65 billion to keep doing it on the same day. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what Opus 4.8 actually does and what the $65 billion really signals and why. If you run a business, the price tag should make you cautious, not excited. Welcome back, guys. So quick context on how we actually got here. Anthropic shipped the Opus 4.7 about 6 weeks ago, and this is the follow-up and the response to GPT 5.5. And it landed the same week that they closed probably one of the biggest deals in a company's history. This isn't just a model update, it's an update with a $65 billion exclamation mark next to it. We're just going to go through the numbers and we're going to see what this actually means for you and what the improvements and what the changes have been. Based on this, the Claude Opus 4.8 has a fast mode now. Ideally, it works 2.5 times the speed in comparison to what it was at 4.7. And it runs at the same cost. You're going to be paying the same amount of money in terms of token usage as you were for the Opus 4.7, which is phenomenal. One of the biggest fears was that as this newer releases get released, the cost also increases, which in comparison to the Chinese models that have been recently been released, this is a little bit worrisome for the Western AI companies. First, let's have a look at some of these benchmarks. The first one that we're going to have a look at is the agentic computer use. And if you're comparing it to the GPT 5.5, you'll see that the computer use on Opus 4.8 is sitting at 83.4, and the GPT 5.5 is sitting at 78.7. The biggest difference between all these models is the knowledge work. I think if you're comparing the knowledge work is sitting at 121 points ahead of the GPT 5.5. The price didn't also go up, so it's still $5 per million words and 25 out. So it doesn't really win on everything. The one major test, which is the terminal bench, it still loses to the GPT 5.5. It's not a massive lead, nor is it a knockout. However, that does matter because the marketing won't tell you that. Okay, so it is something that you keep an eye on. One of the things that I really noticed is that the Opus 4.7 did fabricate a lot of information. It wasn't very honest all the time, but I guess that is the next thing that we're going to be going through. Let's go over some of the features that got released and were added in the Opus 4.8. So those three main ones, ideally it was the dynamic workflows. Dynamic workflows allows Claude to take on bigger tasks. What it does is it now has the ability to run hundreds of multiple parallel agents in a single session. With that, it verifies the output before reporting back to you. So this is a massive step up if you are a developer, and it has the ability to review the code and scale across the full code base. So you can read more about the dynamic workflows and ideally how you can utilize it. I have been playing around with it recently, and I do think that it is significantly faster. So beyond the fast mode, which is 2.5 times faster, which I can definitely attest to that. Another thing is like the effort control. So now with the Opus 4.8, you've got the different effort levels as we did before. However, now I believe it's max. Within all of these, you are going to get a different level of output. Whereas if you go high, extra, and max, you're going to get ideally something that's almost to the scale of getting a totally different, a more powerful model in comparison to medium and low, where it's very small tasks, very simple, very easy task for Opus 4.8 to go through. Beyond that, now it has the ability to update instructions in the middle of a task without breaking the prompt cache and routing the update through a user. Beyond just the speed, this is the other feature that really actually matters, because Anthropic's main pitch wasn't actually speed, it's the honesty. I did find it was fabricating a lot of information, so much so that I had to be specific that don't fabricate any information. This is the type of information and type of data that I want. And they say that this is the proudest model that they do have, and it's more willing to say that I'm not sure their words are 4 times less likely to let a code flaw or slip through unremarked. For a business, an AI that flags its own uncertainty is genuinely valuable because it's not fabricating it's not fabricating information or fabricating data. It's giving you something that you can go research yourself, you can review yourself. Ideally, if you answer a client email, you know that it's more honest. So this is how they measured the honesty, which was misaligned behavior. If you look at how it's measured, the honesty numbers come from Anthropic's own internal evaluation, around 2,600 sessions that they ran themselves. I'm not saying it's false. I'm saying the company selling you the model is also the one grading its level of honesty. So take it with a grain of salt, or have a little bit more skepticism when you approach these data points. Now, let's go down to the financial significance of the investment, because the price tag and the 65 billion don't quite add up the way you think. It's $65 billion, a 965 billion evaluation backed by names like Sequoia, Altimeter on a reported $47 billion revenue run rate. That officially makes Anthropic more valuable than OpenAI as a private company, which is quite interesting. Here's the tension. The model openly burns significantly more tokens. The price is flat, not lower, and there are far cheaper models, including some of these Chinese ones. If you have a look at some of the models and the cost of the models, it's pretty cheap in comparison to what Anthropic is actually giving you. They're closing that capability gap quite quickly, especially with the new Minimax that just got released. And CNBC literally just ran a piece this month titled "Cheap AI Could Derail These Companies' IPOs." Now, if you're going to compare something like DeepSeek, GLM, Qwen, the performance and the cost is catching up to some of these big models like OpenAI and Anthropic. So you've got the most expensive flagship that uses the most tokens, raising the most amount of money, while the floor underneath the whole market gets cheaper. Here's my honest read. The model within itself is really good. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The 70-30 rule still applies. For 70% of your work that's routine, you don't particularly need such a powerful model. A cheaper model will be totally fine. And for 30% that's high stakes, a contract, a financial summary, a client decision, something like Opus 4.8 that flags its own uncertainty is worth the money. And its agentic coding capabilities is also quite good. So for those massive projects and things that require a lot of planning. So what you can use it to plan, to review code, and then you can use the other models to actually execute the tasks. That's what I'm going to be using it for. I'm skeptical, however, on the bigger picture, and I think you should be too, on the basis that who are actually involved in this IPO. So $65 billion doesn't get raised so a 5-person accounting firm can write better emails. It gets raised to win an enterprise government land grab, which is quite interesting given the fact that Anthropic and the United States had a little bit of a dispute on the basis that they were not open to letting the United States use it for military operations. So if you actually look at the associations that these labs are quoting, which are banks, big consultancies, and the agencies, we don't really know yet what all of them are going to do with an AI that can take a whole project at once, or what it does to people who used to do that work. I still do tend to believe that human interaction is valuable and invaluable. It's valuable and invaluable. People at the end of the day still want to talk to people, still want to communicate with people, and they still want to connect with people. It's going to be a long while before AI fully replaces people. There are going to be small little bits and pieces, little niches that AI is going to impact greater than others. However, based on the use and daily exposure to AI, I don't think we're there yet. Maybe it could be another 3 years before it can actually replace an industry. Is that $65 billion valuation proof that the moat is real and you should build on it now? Or is it a sign that we're funding a price that cheaper models won't let them hold? I genuinely go back and forth because the Chinese models are very strong now and they're getting really good and they are holding their own. It's only a matter of time before DeepSeek releases the next model or Minimax releases another model that is almost as good as 4.8, if not better. If you want more news, more insight, or you want to stay ahead of the AI game, I've got a community called Born Builders on Skool.com. We share tools, workflows, system breakdowns. The link is in the description. And like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.